So once again I'm going to show you how you can use activity to cover up your weaknesses. Actually I had two interesting games. One was against Peter Leko and another one was against Alexei Shirov. And in one of the games my strategy worked, and in the other game the strategy backfired. Both games they were played in the Melody Amber tournament in Monaco, and as you can see, since first game, in fact, it was against Peter Leko, and I lost the game. As a professional, you have to immediately to check then your lines, and late in the tournament, I was ready to play Alexei Shirov in the same line, and because of my work, I even managed to win. So the policy of White was simply to provoke the move e5, e4, because now it's the pawns are getting a target, because now the knight is coming to put them under questioning. This is a pawn sacrifice. If, let's say, move like queen takes f5, there will be rook e5, and there will be a lot of activity for black. f5 is coming, knight f4 is coming, and maybe queen g5. So basically White is best not taking this pawn. So instead played f4, and this is of course interesting strategy. Basically he wants to take away the e5 square for all the pieces of black. It's already a very important square. And second thing is that White basically wants to fix the pawn f5 later to be taken by, let's say, by the knight. Since black doesn't have any more pawn on g file, especially on g6, this move f4 makes a lot of sense. So it's clear that black has to do something, and against Peter Leko I went for this move b4, simply just to get again counterplay against the queen side. But for some reason I missed completely that he has this simple way of playing knight takes b4, queen b6 check. This was the idea, that check and the queen will enter on b2. But simply went king h1, a5, knight c2. I took on b2, at least I took the heart away from his queen side. Now the queen side is extremely weak, but now he can simply move his knight to e3, and after move like queen takes c3, knight takes f5, and this knight is really very strong, and it's a very unpleasant position, and finally I lost this game. Then against Alexei Shirov I improved my play after f4 by taking on f3. Somehow this move looks really ugly, because you have basically two isolated pawns, But instead I have an open E file. I had this square E5 at my disposal, and somehow black is getting a lot of play. So I had to play this move F4, simply taking away the E3 square, bishop D3 and queen G5. So already now white has to be very careful for moves like knight H4 because of the threat on G2 or knight E5. So white decided to take the knight on G6. Queen takes G6, because otherwise you could simply take a pawn on F4. Now at least the knight is hanging. Knight E1, rook E4, queen D3, and rook E8. And because of this move e takes F3, you can see that now at least black has taken the E file. White puts his knight on the most ideal square, knight F3. But now I went rook E3, and the move Shirov made, he doesn't like to make it, but the problem is of course that after a move like queen D2, there will be rook E2 and mate on G2. In fact, I think that, let's say, if white had a rook this position on F2, then after queen D2, he is simply better because of the knight on F3. Although still not so simple to win, because black has his activity along the E file, but now he was forced to take on G6, which is now it's clear that black's strategy was a big success, because after pawn takes G6, now the pawn structure is sort of okay again. Black has now the E file, and he's also going to attack now the queen side, as you can see in the game. Maybe white had simply now to challenge as quickly as possible black on the E file by playing move like rook E1 and let's say king F1, and to at least to change one pair of rooks. He didn't do it. I think it was a mistake. He played rook F2, A5, king F1 and B4. Simply the pressure on C3 will be too much now for white. So he took on B4, takes B3. As you can see now, this bishop is very powerful and the knight is nothing special. Bishop C3. Now I played rook E4. Probably I want to prevent some ideas such as knight D4, knight B5. Rook DC1. He's preparing some kind of counterplay, but king G7, A4. This was his idea, but rook D3, the pawn D5, he cannot defend anymore. A5 takes rook A2, but it's easy to stop this pawn. Rook E7, A6, rook A7, rook A4, and now black simply starts to use his king side majority by pushing his pawns. Preparing F5, rook C2, F5, and simply going to push away the knight from f3. And now it's white for some reason didn't want to move his knight, but okay, knight doesn't have any good squares anyway, but still I was happy to take this knight. Now black is simply completely winning. White played a few moves because it was a rapid game, but it was not a normal game. He would have resigned for sure. And d5, and it was finished.